Yes, we're talking about the election because I know you're definitely not sick of it yet. But I did want to talk about what this election means for Australia's technology industry. What does it mean for our startup community? Here in studio, we have Alex McCauley from Startup Oz, and we have Ariel Bogle, technology reporter with the ABC. So we're going to break down each party, but I want to start with Labor. What is Labor offering the tech world right now?
I mean, I think we should start by saying that neither side are talking all that much about technology or innovation this election. It's not been a critical issue for the campaign, and this is in stark contrast to the last election where obviously we were on the back of Malcolm Turnbull's National Innovation and Science Agenda. It was all the rage. You know, you couldn't get through a sentence without saying the word agile. And now it's...
And the ideas were booming, as I recall.
And the ideas were booming very vocally. These days, not so much. I think the big issues that affect startups and technology this election are probably bigger, broader economic issues like tax policy or whatever. The Labor Party have probably been more vocal than the government on tech-specific policy. They've announced an AI Centre of Excellence down in Melbourne. They want to do a blockchain academy over in Perth, a digital health tech accelerator in Melbourne as well, and a whole bunch of policies around skills in particular. So $25 million for regional digital skills centres, new TAFE places and more apprenticeships for digital skills, and just yesterday another $5 million for a digital skills centre of excellence.
And one of the things I am interested in talking about is why innovation doesn't figure as heavily in this election as it did in the last one. But out of what is currently on the table, or what different parties are offering, Ariel, what do you think is the most interesting?
Well, I think it is intriguing, as Alex said, that it's all bits and pieces that indicate some of the priorities should Labor form government or the coalition be returned. But there's still some litigation going on, I think, over what happened in the last year of Parliament for tech, especially when you speak to people in the startup industry. They're not so talking as much about bits of millions here and there. They're talking about what they regard as the big, I guess, inciting incidents of the last Parliament. So the passing of the encryption bill, the passing of new social media law regulations. These things have sort of compounded into a feeling that technology is being ignored in Canberra. And Ed Husick of Labor, who is their spokesperson, I suppose, on tech issues, has indicated that if Labor did form government, that they would look to reform the encryption legislation that passed December last year. Yeah, as Alex sort of hinted at, it is a bit everywhere, a lot of promises, a lot of feeling like tech's voice has lost its power in Canberra.
Probably worth adding to that in a similar vein is that over the last couple of years, the biggest government program supporting startups and tech across the country, the R&D tax incentive, has kind of been slipping away from software companies.
What is that for somebody that's...
So basically it's companies of all colours and stripes get money rebated to them if they spend on R&D, on research and development.
Right.
And so lots of software companies are developing new software, and lots of that should be eligible under the R&D tax incentive. And so there's sort of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars available for companies spending big on R&D to get rebated from the government. But lots of that money has started to be clawed back by the ATO in the last couple of years, which has hurt lots of growing startups.
It does seem like it's not as attractive for a government to sell investing in tech as it used to. And I'm curious as to why you think that is.
In Australia, I think there are local factors and global factors.
Yeah.
I think the local factors are clearly, this was Malcolm Turnbull's thing. He took it to the 2016 election. It didn't go so well for the Liberal Party, and that's been blamed for the slim majority that they had in the last Parliament and the difficulty they find themselves in now. And so it's been off the radar, I think, or at least much lower priority for the government over this last term. The global factors, I think, are some of them you hinted at. The sheen has come off Silicon Valley because of the cultural stuff, whether it's the Me Too movement or the tech bros stuff. There's definitely some global headwinds that technology companies across the world are facing, whether it's on privacy, data protection, election interference, all of that stuff I think has really made the case for technology companies with government pretty tough, and technology companies haven't necessarily dealt with that so well. That's kind of causing some headwinds for Australian tech companies, even though we don't really have the sector here yet. And I think we're
not big enough to do damage.
Yeah, we probably haven't had those problems here, and yet fledgling companies and an emerging industry here are kind of having to make their way through that difficult environment, notwithstanding that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, absolutely. I do think it's interesting to look as well at why the tech industry here it is really ranges in size. Of course, the Atlassian guys always seem to become the spokespeople for the entire industry, but it really is a broad range of companies, not only software services like Atlassian, but all the way to space, satellites and things. This is the type of technology that's being developed here. But it does seem like it has been difficult for that industry to have a cohesive voice in Canberra that it can successfully sell their point of view and sell the story of tech to the government now that it is facing headwinds, not only the tech industry's perceived ties to the Turnbull era, but also this global backlash against the big tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, etc.
And so a big part of it for us is to tell the economic story to the politicians and say, actually, this is where jobs are going to come from in future decades. We already know that most of the new jobs in the economy are being created by young, high-growth firms, and lots of those firms are tech companies. That's happening not just in Australia, but right around the OECD. That's a message that we think should resonate with parliamentarians, because that's about basic economic management. Where are the jobs for the next generation of Australians going to come from?
There is lots more of this in the podcast of Download the Show. And if you think it's all about the election, it's a little bit about the election. We're also talking about voter tracking software and also Tamagotchis, which have nothing to do with the election, but they are coming back. You can find out why on the podcast of Download the Show. See you guys.